And so they go on. Have you noticed that all the functions of the mind so far are in the area where man does not maintain awareness? All of these functions are, for the most part, subconscious or below the conscious level of our awareness. Also notice that the animal kingdom goes no further. The animal doesn't have karma. That leaves them with the emotional sources 1, 2, 3, and 5. And here the animal stops. You remember 1 was the genetic cellular programs, 2 was the learned responses, 3 was the influences to keep the earth balanced, and 5 was man's mental projection. Animal stops there; he doesn't have any more. One other thing that you really need to notice here, it says, have you noticed that all the functions of the mind discussed so far are in the area where man does not maintain his awareness? Even karma? We have that extra 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, karma. And none of them are in the area where man maintains his awareness. It's another one of those things where they focus on something or point you to something, and they just go on like they didn't say anything. Have you noticed that all of the functions of the mind discussed so far are in the area where man does not maintain his awareness? So in other words, here we have all this influence on man, the civilized, no longer animal being, and they point it out to you as kind of a legal proof. The lawyer standing there trying to get you to see something, that here we've got 5 different things that influence man. I mean, don't they? Doesn't breathing influence you? Doesn't your heart beat? Doesn't the mental projections of man, doesn't the genetic programming, doesn't the learned responses, the balancing of the earth's structure, don't all those things influence man, to the point where you can hardly tell that there's anything left? Looking at this thing the other way around, have you ever noticed how human animals are? Have you ever noticed how human your pet is? Have you ever noticed how human your pet is? The point is, obviously, that they're trying to get you to see that you're a lot animal. There's a great deal of animal influence in you. You're not civilized. You're not beyond it. They're telling you you're not beyond it. Here's 5 places where you're not beyond it. You're not even aware of the 5 places. Tremendous influence on you. You're not even aware of it. I think that's kind of what they're trying to tell you, and I think that's an important thing. You make these assumptions when you get into Book 4 and you begin to see what it is we do with our society. You see really quick something's wrong, and that this logical, civilized person that you think you are, and living in this logical, civilized society that you think you're living in, you're not. And you can see it by the way we have allowed society to be built. And when you see it built another way, you see it very clearly. We're not thinking civilized human beings. We're almost tribal. We're almost monkeys. But that's for Book 4. So they go on. We have now covered the entire mind of the animal. What they do or do not do is covered by that which we discussed above. The animal is linked to Father through the emotions and has neither free will nor awareness of self. The animal, like all things, save those influenced by the soul, are a part of the body of Father. They must follow the laws Father has laid down, much as your finger must follow your command. Do you see the difference? The stars follow the laws. The galaxies follow the laws. The planets and all things on them, save man, follow the laws. Only the soul has free will. Only the soul is not connected to Father by law. Only the soul can choose. And there again, something very strong, great deal of emphasis placed on it. It's something to think about. Man is insignificant. Man is in an insignificant planet, in an insignificant solar system, in an insignificant galaxy, in this immense universe. And then on the other hand, you see them saying that the stars have to follow the laws, and the galaxy has to follow the laws, and the animals have to follow the laws, and everything has to follow Father's laws. They're just following Father's laws. The soul has free will. Only the soul is not connected to Father by law. Now, all of a sudden, this thing that's trapped in this animal body in this insignificant place becomes one of the greatest things in creation. Kind of a dual thing, you know. It's really strange the way people view themselves, trying to be gods in this totally insignificant place in the specter of creation, and not knowing they're already the second highest thing in existence. Strange. And they go on. So we stop with the animal kingdom and go on with man. Man has more mind left to investigate. The next thing we come to, because of the soul's attachment or influence, is that man has awareness. This awareness finds its influence or expression, as we said, in the left side and some of the right side of the frontal lobe of the brain. This is where you seem to do all your thinking, and where all that you can become aware of enters your awareness. In other words, the manifestation of is in the logical, mathematical, rational side of the brain, with a little bit of the intuitiveness allowed to creep in, is what they're saying. And that's where you seem to do all of your thinking, and this is where all of your awareness enters in. And they go on and say, this is where you are, as far as you can tell, or at least that's what you've been taught. Now here again, they say, all these little things where they slide in. This is what you've been taught. This is where you are. They go on and say, that being so, the next step in the argument of those who serve is very obvious. If you can't see it, touch it, smell it, hear it, taste it, it must not exist. And you cannot see Father, love, kindness, caring, and the whole range of the mystical art. So they must not exist. Only new cars exist. Only new houses exist. Only jewelry exists. Only large bank accounts exist. Only the right toothpaste, lipstick, aftershave, hair dye exists. Now, who or what would profit from that kind of lie? And they say more later, and you know when, if it's ever written. So is that it? Man has karma and the conscious thought that the animal doesn't? Is that enough to make man different than the animals and enough to explain the total man? Is that the sum total of the model of man we're trying to create? So here they are saying, okay, you've got it all. Do you have it all now? You got the whole keyboard? And they say, no. The problem again is that as we go on up the scale of the mind, man's awareness does not go on with us, and we are back to the subconscious state of unawareness. In other words, generally you're thinking that the subconscious is the lower levels. Here they're saying that we dealt with the lower levels, then we came to the conscious state, man's awareness where it is, and then all of a sudden they're saying, oh, mind goes on. There's more to it than that, but now you're back to the unconscious state again. And what in the world is this? What are they saying? They're saying that the mind goes on to higher levels, but your consciousness doesn't. So then they go on and say, going on up the scale of this mind of man, we find a myriad of influences, all relating to his spiritual or mystical, as man would call them, in his limited understanding. They all have their influence in man in the area behind the frontal lobes. Now, this influence, this expression, they're saying, is behind the frontal lobes, between the frontal lobes and the midbrain. Again, you have to go into the brain structure to find out where that is, but that is the place, that is the expression. that's where it finds its expression. And then they say, we will group them as an aid to understanding. And what they're saying there is we're going to take all of these influences and group them all together so that it'll be easier for you to understand rather than trying to separate and show you how each one influences. They're just going to put them all together. So they start out with the first part of that group that they're grouping together. And they say, there is the influence of those who are earthbound and cannot seem to get on and away after death. And they say we discussed those in the steps of death, and you remember those ones hanging around that couldn't leave the earth influence. They hang around trying to influence any who would allow. They bring woe to those who try to meditate without proper instruction. And they say proper, not expert. Those who drink or drug themselves get blown away. And those who just leave their bodies without instructions to the guardian. Did you get that? They do so much of this stuff. They bring woe to those who try to meditate without proper instruction. They bring woe. They bring woe to those who drink or drug themselves, get blown away. They bring woe to those who just leave their bodies without instructing the guardian. Now, there are a lot of you that don't even know what they're talking about here. Meditate without proper instruction. That was proper, not expert. They're saying, not expert instruction, please. Proper instruction is what they're after. What are they saying? Well, this is an area that I do know again. Proper instruction, meditate inward, never seek outward. Don't drink or drug yourself to get blown away. You leave the door open. Those things hanging around can enter. Those who just leave their body without instruction to the guardian. What instruction to the guardian? What guardian? If you're going to leave your body, you have to instruct your guardian. This place is mine. Let no one enter save that which would be on my side. That's the instruction. Let no one enter here. This is my abode. You're not welcome. You must leave. That's the instruction to the guardian. If you have to leave, and as you venture inward, you're not leaving, but there are circumstances where perhaps in your development you might leave your body. There is instructions that you can give to the guardian. Actually, you shouldn't be doing that until you know those rules. It's one of those things that slow, careful development gives you a well-rounded understanding. And they go on to say, they also trap those who seek the guardian from out there to help them pass the test, so to speak. These earthbound are clever and fool many with their knowledge from the other side, their ability to mimic loved ones and their beguiling ways. And here again you get the understanding, simple little things that they say, but kind of a whole book in one sentence. They also trap those who seek a guide from out there to help them pass the test, so to speak. What are they saying? I asked them, because I said, what is that? What is that? What are you trying to tell us here? They trap those who seek a guide from out there to help them pass the test, so to speak. In other words, they view this life, I asked them, they said they view this life as a test. What do you want? Dominion? You want Father's love. What do you want? The tickle? You want Father's love. Two choices. That's the test. When you're dealing with the test, you're going to go out there and seek the Indian guide, the mystical guide that guides you, that helps you answer the, what am I going to do here? Oh, this decision is so difficult. What am I going to do? Please help me make the decision. You make the decision for me. What do you mean? You make the decision for me. How are you going to pass a test if somebody else is making the decision for you? How are you going to cheat on this? You can't. But there they are saying that those earthbound entities that you wouldn't want to have anything to do with if they were living, you wouldn't give them the time of day most. The gutter people, the druggies, gone. Just totally self-enmeshed people. You're going to ask them to help you make decisions in your life? Whew. That was that you don't be asking for your Indian guide out there, and you don't meditate outwardly, you meditate inwardly. If you do, you set the guardian, tell him the ones aloud, say me, and those that would help. Me. Okay. Then they say, okay, now, we have these earthbound, and they're clever, and they're dead, and they're earthbound, and they're trying to manipulate you. How do you test for these? And they say, is there a test for these then? And they say, and the tests for these are, what would they have you do? Earth stuff, meditate, leave your body? Yeah, we already discussed that. If that's what they want you to do, beware. The next one they say, make a better world, give you a better life, help you find the power, beware. So what they're saying is, if those are, make a better world, you're only here for the test. You're not here for eternity. It isn't about making a better world. It isn't about heaven on earth. It's about decisions. It's about choices. Where do you want to go? Give you a better life here? It isn't about a better life here. It's about making choices, getting here or there, helping you decide which you want the most, helping you find the power. You know, anytime you're talking about power, you're talking about dominion. Beware. That's how you know them. If they say, if you run into one and it says, set your guardian and venture inward and find your true guide, and after finding same, ask that you turn around and teach others the truth you found there, be thankful. So, on the one side, beware. Meditate, leave your body, find power, beware. Make choices for you, beware. If it tells you, if this guide, if you will, tells you to set your guardian, venture inward, and find your true guide. Who's your true guide when you venture inward? Your persona, your soul. And after finding that it asks you to turn around and teach others the truth you found there, by the time you find your persona and your soul, you will have found a myriad of things inward, and you will not be able to help but turn around and go out and tell others what you found there. Be thankful you got the right one. How do you tell? They just told you. They just explained it to you. Then they go on to the next group, and you remember they kind of combined all these groups and kind of grouped them all together so that it was easier for you to understand than if they'd have done it some different way. And they say the next group to influence you in this mystical level is the earth powers up to and including the higher powers. These will influence you in ways of a subconscious nature if they are petitioned to in the proper manner by man, or you just come under their influence in some manner. This influence is rare these days, but it is still there. And then they go on to the next group. And as always, here you are with a short little paragraph, and they're talking about those that would influence you that aren't dead, that are what they call the earth powers up to and including the higher powers. What on earth is all of that about? Well, let me just lay this thing out for you. In any ritual, in any form of mystical, religious, philosophical enterprise, if you hear the words earth, air, fire, water, north, south, east, and west, you're talking about the higher powers. They're talking about the higher powers. It may be distorted. It may be changed. It may be ununderstandable, unintelligible. I mean, it's lost. But if you have the alders in the four cardinal directions, if you have the fire in one place, the water in one place, the air in one place, and earth in another place, you're dealing with the worshiping of the higher powers. Higher powers. What are they? The next level below the Earth Guardian. Earth Guardian, higher powers. Higher powers than the Earth powers. 4 higher powers. Trying to tell man that they were gods in an earlier time. Man worshipped them. Man sacrificed animals form, maybe even humans form. Man worshipped them, and they liked it. So, a short little paragraph. Can we come under the influence of them now? Are they gone? See, you understand what they're saying? Are they gone? No, they're not gone. They're still here. Could you still worship them? Sure, you could still worship them. Do you know the rules? No, we don't remember the rules anymore. But were there rules? Sure. I have seen one of the higher powers come to a Catholic, a traditional Catholic wedding. Came, everybody didn't see him, he was ignored, it was ignored, left. But the incense was given, the altar was there, he was called, or it was called. It came, it was very like, okay, what do you want me to do? Nobody paid any attention to it, it left. Can they be called? Yeah. Do they have power? Certainly. Do they help man? Absolutely not. Do you have to worship them? What are you? That second highest thing in the creation, actually the highest thing in creation, because God is creator, not creation. The highest thing in creation, or are you just the animal man being lied to and told that you have to do something or other so you can gain immortality, which you already have, and become something more important than a monkey, which you already are? Lie, lie, lie. Higher powers join that lie. Book 5 will tell you why. Forgive the poetry. So then they say the next group, and here they go to another group. The next group, which includes the black robes, white robes, gray robes, brown robes, and then they say here that we mean no disrespect, but rather the best description for those who know. And the next group, and what they're talking about here is this next one that they're going to discuss, which is the black-robed elephant nosers. Those who know, and I know those who know, so those who don't know, someday. Then they go on to little watchers and the myriad of others. These just might be seen from the corner of your eye in a flick of a second, or they might actually influence you in some way related to their own agenda. In any case, unless you're well developed and thus able to handle them, they rarely care to bother you. In other words, here's an influence, but probably one that you won't find influencing you, nor even have to deal with until your development is such that you, one, see them, and two, you already know how to deal with them. So then they go on up. Remember, they're moving up the levels from the animal to the very highly spiritual. And they say as we move up a level, we find the influence of the persona. This influence, also found in the area just behind the frontal lobe, comes in the form of quiet hunches, help, and that still small voice. These come from those portions of the persona wishing to again find a path for expression of self. And they're saying now, does that sound like a lot of words? And boy, doesn't it sound like a lot of words? And they say, think about it. Let's say you were to die tomorrow. Your experience in this life would combine with the other experiences or other lives you have lived. Let's also say that your persona enters a new monkey, and that monkey begins its journey through life. As time passes, this monkey man has an experience or an event occurs which falls into the area of life you knew well. In other words, it's getting into a trouble area that you got into and you found a solution to, let's say. Wouldn't you want to try to influence a new monkey and point it in the right direction? If you were allowed only hunches, that still small voice and the light to get your message through, would you try anyway? If the new monkey were more sensitive to that area of the mind than most, would he benefit? That is the good side. Now the bad. Could a person be so sensitive to that area that he would lose his identity to the facets of that persona who wanted life again? Is that what multiple personalities are? Do you see why slow and careful is needed rather than drugs and now and I can't wait? Do you now see why there is a guardian at both ends of the gate of awareness? Then they say, let's go on up the scale of the mind where we find the soul and its flashes of knowledge. There is no other way to explain the way the soul communicates. Those who have had the experience know what we are talking about. You just know in a flash a whole segment of data, and that data is for sure. It is not a hunch or a thought that might be possible. It is a fact, and you know it. This is a rare occasion in most people, since the soul is rarely involved in the affairs of man. Actually, the soul is rarely awake enough to recognize that the affairs of man even exist. So they said that the persona influenced you in that still small voice, hunches, feelings, boy, this doesn't look good, or oh, this looks really good, hunches. And as they move on up the scale of the mind, they go to the soul and the flash of knowledge. If you've ever had those things, you know what they're talking about. It's like a book, a whole book dumped on you, and you have to, and you know something happened. And you know now that you know something, but you have to go back and read the book. You have to go back and think about it and kind of unfold it and open it up and see what it was it said. You know it. You can even function on the basis of the knowledge that you were given without opening the book up, but you don't know what you know because it all came in one big piece. In other words, you couldn't put it into words. You know it, but you can't put it into words. And in order to put it into words, you have to open it up and unfold it and put it into words, and then you can verbalize it to somebody and tell them what it was that you know. But if you've never had the experience, there's no way to tell you how you know, because you know before you can verbalize it. You know for a fact that it's true. That's the soul. That's the soul's projection. And then they go on and they say, that's as far as we need to go, since the oversoul and on, anything past the oversoul, rarely enters into man's affairs, leaving that in the capable hands of the soul and the persona. Besides, you have enough to work on already. And so then they go on to the next chapter, which is how the total mind enters our awareness, and they're going to explain that to you. And they say, as we said, the discussion of our mind would be divided into two parts. The first part above gives the full range of thought available to man. The full range of mind, thought maybe mind be more accurate. And so you've gotten the full range from the cellular, emotional input all the way up to the, and they didn't go to the oversoul, but at least to the soul's input. And then they go on and say, this next part we will try to convey how this full range of thought going on all the time enters man's limited awareness in his material world. Again, as we said, this will be technical in nature and for those who need to know. If you don't need to know, go on to the level that comes after level 4. Now, for those of you that do need to know, this is level 4. And they say, and they say, if you are still with us, you had better know that your awareness is trapped in the material world for a reason. You had better know who or what that trapped awareness serves and how. We are going fast, but if you haven't figured it out, read on. You might by the end of this information. Here they are again with this little short paragraph saying, for those in level 4 now, you understand you're supposed to be pretty sharp people. You had better know who or what that trapped awareness serves and how. You have a trapped awareness. It's trapped in the material world. Why? And by the time this discussion's done, you should have figured it out if you haven't already. And so they're going on here with the understanding that we're talking about how the total mind of man enters your awareness. In other words, they already told you that your awareness kind of centers around this one little part, just the material, physical, mathematical, logical, rational part of your brain. And that's where the major manifestation comes from, which makes this earth appear real and solid. And you touch, feel, taste, smell, and hear. And if it doesn't do any of those, it doesn't exist, sort of thing. And so they're saying, now, how does all of this mind enter your awareness if it does? And then they go on and say, for this discussion, we will assume that man is only aware of that part of his mind which would be considered normal. We know there are those who can tap into other areas of the mind. If you know, you also know that it takes time and training. This is not the time or the place for that work. Thus, we will assume that you have a normal awareness and need to know how and in what form, those other parts of the mind enter your awareness. So now they've restricted those of you who know to trying to remember what it was like to have normal awareness, because that's the form basis, that's where they're going to come from as they explain to you how the total mind enters your awareness if it does. You understand that? If you have more than normal awareness, you'll be aware of some of these things. Most people aren't. They're talking to most people. If you are, okay. If you aren't, you're normal, that sort of thing. So then we'll be going to the lowest part of the mind, and as we said before, the assumption being that the monkey is the lowest part and the soul is the highest part. So they'll be going to the lowest part of the mind first and begin to move up the ladder as you would up the keys of a piano. At the bottom level, then, there are the bodily functions of the man-monkey, which almost never enter man's awareness. Those are subconscious. They would be considered subconscious most of the time. When they do enter man's awareness, it's usually with pain or discomfort, and the message that there is pain and discomfort. Stomach ache, headache, those kind of things. And then they kind of, as a side note, they say, it's always been interesting to us to see how you are told to take care of those messages. Take this new extra strength, super duper painkiller, and your pain will go away. And they say, go away? Are you being told to stamp out some portion of your own mind? Are you being told to drug your awareness that you will stay in the material world? If you say no, then tell us what you were taught to do after you take the super duper painkiller. Lay in bed and take it easy. Take the day off and meditate on the cause of the message, the pain, the cause of it. Change some of the things you do that are causing this message, this pain. No, that is not what you are taught. You are taught to get back to work, back to your fence-starved children, back to your husband, back to your party, back to your directionless, queenless, purposeless world. That is what you are taught. And then they stopped that part. See what they said there? Another one of those paragraphs that you're told to take this extra strength, super painkiller, and the pain will go away. They're asking, are you being told to stamp out some portion of your own mind? Are you being told to drug your awareness so that you will stay in the material world? Stay in the material world? Why did they say that? They say that because, especially if you say, no, that's not what it's for, it's just to get rid of the pain. They say, no? Then tell us what you're taught to do after you take this super-duper painkiller. If you got pain, there's a reason, right? Lay in bed. Take it easy. Maybe it's stress. Take the day off. Meditate on the cause of the pain. Change something you're doing to get rid of the pain. No. It's not what you're told to do. You're told to get out there and go back to work. That's the first one. And the main one, go back to work. Then the second one is take care of your, and they just say fence-starved children. Go into that in book 4 a lot. Fence-starved children. Back to your husband, back to the party, back to your directionless, queenless, purposeless world. And that's what you're taught. So, making a point, drug the pain so that you can get back to what? Your purposeless world. Boy, I tell you, don't they see things different than we do?